Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. Good to have you guys here. I got my boy Road Dog with me. Road Dog, you there, bud?
Top of the day, sir.
How's it going? Down that side of the suburb? All good?
Yes. As you look down on your kingdom, King Karl.
Now. All right, buddy. Look, I tell you what, man. Like you said, let's get stuck straight into this. What questions do you got lined up for me here, buddy? Hit me with.
Okay, so funny enough. Okay, so I make a king comment. So I got a question for you I was thinking about yesterday. So every week I get all these questions sent through. I pick the best ones for the show, right? I hit you with those, whatever I think are just the best, most relevant, most difficult, all that stuff. So yesterday, and I know it's hard for you to imagine, but I was thinking about a line from the play King Henry IV. Uneasy lies the head that wears a crown. So let me ask you this. So we've got over like 700 coaches in 24 countries, right? That use your online lead gen tools, the coaching system, all that stuff. Do you ever get stressed that so many people are relying on your advice and are following your lead? Like what if, and I know it's hard to imagine, what if you were wrong or I gave someone some bad advice?
Well, now, Road Dog, you know that I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm absolutely perfect. Everything that comes out of my mouth works perfectly and exactly the way that I outline it. No, first of all, what a question, dude. What even, you've been reading history books or what, dude? I'm impressed, man. Holy smokes.
I think we need to, this whole thing of always being right. Can we get Tammy on the show?
No, we can't. No, we can't. My wife will well and truly tell you everything that I do wrong. But look, here's the scoop. I think that's a great question, first of all, because I just think that that's the problem, right? Is that so many folks, you won't put yourself out there. So what do I say? Perfection is the lowest standard on earth because it just stops it from happening, right? So if you were so worried in the fact that, geez, you might be wrong, I would just say the secret is always come, at least this is the way I approach it, always come from a place of love, always come from a place of care, where it, most certainly not about sounding intelligent and having all the answers. I mean, if you ask me something, I don't have the answer. I'm well and truly big enough, bad enough, bold enough to just say, you know what, Road Dog, I'm not entirely sure, but I'll tell you what I will do is I'll research that, I'll research the XYZ that you're asking me for and give me a few days and I'll come back to it. I mean, so, and I believe that will give you the confidence somebody else who's, struggling with that. Like I can't do a podcast because everybody would then be listening. And what if I give some bad advice? What if I'm proven wrong, et cetera? Guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's constantly talking about the future and things that are coming. And he always says that he wants to he wants to be proven right. And he's well and truly been proven wrong multiple times over the last, let's say, 10 years. But it doesn't dampen his enthusiasm in any way, shape, or form. But do understand he's giving you that insight, from that place of trying to look after you and be able to, predict what that's going to look like in a positive and, in contextual manner. So, and I would also say this, that I'm constantly, and Road Dog, you do genuinely know this about me, right? Like I am sharpening my saw constantly. I'm the guy, I'm reading the books, I'm watching the webinars. I mean, I'm doing you know what I mean? Like I'm legitimately, and I've done it for, 2 decades now. So I can comfortably say this, that when you ask me a question, in no way, shape, or form would I pretend to say that I've got all of the answers, that I'm always right. So much of this stuff, it is not black and white in any way. It's so gray, it's scary. But my answers will pretty much always come from a place of wisdom. So I'm not the guy who read a few books and then tries to pretend like he's the expert. I've been out there. I've been in the trenches. I've closed the coaching clients. I've lost the coaching clients. I've helped the coaching clients. I've had massive successes. I've had absolutely some horrific failures. And I was, again, paying attention the entire time. So I would say that just perfection stops it from happening. So you'd be kidding yourself to say that, there's not a little bit of pressure, in a situation like that, with 700 coaches around the world, yada, yada, yada. But I wouldn't say that it, it doesn't, it ramps. Okay, let's go to Michael Jordan. The last few minutes of the game, what happened? He stepped up big time. So, and again, I'm not in any way, shape, or form comparing myself to Michael Jordan, not even kinda. But what I would say is that I, rather than get intimidated by it, I absolutely love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's what I'd say to you on that one, man. That's what just.
Okay, I'll add this too, because for those of you like Karl and I are pretty much neighbors here, so it is interesting that I do get to see this guy on a pretty regular basis, and lucky enough to call him my friend. But I honestly do the amount that what people don't see is like when you're putting out content, when you're developing, say, the software, whatever, the sleepless nights, the stress, the amount of passion and commitment that you have that goes into it. That's pretty darn cool. So because there's a lot of people that talk about it and that talk about they care, but then there's that people that actually do, and that's anyway. So just to pump your tires, because that's exactly what you need, is your tires pumped up even more.
Cheers.
All right, enough of that. Let's put a needle into that one for a sec. So now I got a good question here, and this one's really, really good because speaking of caring for people, I do care when people aren't having the initial success. So here's a question I got from a coach. I've been at it for 12 months and I don't have enough coaching clients and I'm running out of money fast. What are your best strategies for getting clients?
Okay. You guys, those of you that get my emails from the magazine, you're going to be reading this. You've already been reading it for a while, but you're going to be reading it. I would be amazed if it's not consistently over the next number of years. Here's how I'd answer that. You do not have a client problem. In fact, you do not have a money problem. You have a refusal to help people before they pay you problem. That's the problem. Okay, so again, we got to get to the root of it, right? So, in fact, even as I sent out an email, and this is just in the last couple of weeks, and it was Caroline Williamson, which she's one of our folks, right? She uses our system, yada, yada, yada. So basically, she followed a strategy that I sent out in an email, verbatim, almost, pretty much exact. I'm sure she put her own little wee spin on it, which is important. But at the end of the day, it's hers, ready to, she took it straight out of an email and just kind of launched it. Got a coaching client within a week, right? So I can almost hear you say, okay, well, what did you do? What did you write in the email? It's just as simple. Okay, here's what you're going to do. And you have to commit to doing this for 90 days. You got to make a few phone calls, but it's the tortoise, not the hare. So all you do is you pick up the phone every single day and you solve a business owner's problem. Okay, so you're going to call Tim the Toolman, okay, straight out of the show Home Improvement. Why not, right? You're going to call Tim the Toolman and say, Tim, this sounds like a crazy question, which, by the way, that line will get you so far you have no idea. You call somebody and tell them you have a crazy question, they'll listen to what you have to say afterwards with about 95% predictability. So, Tim, got a crazy question for you, bud. I took on a challenge from my mentor, Karl Bryan. He's got a magazine called The Six Figure Coach. It's an international magazine. You may have heard of it. Of course, they've never heard of it. Just by saying that, it sounds a little bit better, right? And of course, replace my name with whoever you want. Replace the magazine with whoever you want. I don't care. It's just a matter of picking up the phone and having a reason. You got to have that reason frame. So, Tim, how you doing? Crazy question for you. I'm calling because my mentor, Karl Bryan, set me up with a challenge, and he said that I had to solve somebody's number one biggest business problem today. I don't know why I called you, but I felt compelled to call you. I saw your ad. I saw your truck. I saw you at the chamber website. I saw you at the chamber event. Come up with some, you know what I mean? You saw them somewhere. So here's my question for you, Tim. What's the number one problem you currently have in your business? And I am going to solve it for you today. And see what he says. I mean, I don't know how anybody's going to get mad at you, and you could adjust that. I'm sure it could be worded, slightly better, adjusted, whatever. But you're going to phone 3 people every single day, and do that for them. And then they're going to say X, Y, Z. But in some cases, the timing's not right. Okay, I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you this afternoon. I'll call you in an hour, right? But I want to solve this problem, and this isn't a lead-in. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. This isn't a path to money. I just want to solve your number one biggest problem. And frankly, I'm going to learn something. You're going to have a problem solved, and I'm going to have fulfilled my promise with my mentor. And if you're not interested, that's totally fine. I'll call somebody else. No big deal. If you did that 3 times a day, every day, 5 days a week, take weekends off and hang out with the family, chill out at the beach, whatever it is, right? How, in the end of 90 days, how could you not have clients? That would just be my question. And I'm going to tell you that you absolutely would, but you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And essentially this would work, right? So that's it. So just phone 3 people every single day, and don't phone 30, don't phone 60, right? Just phone 3 people every single day, and I think you'd knock it out of the park. That's it. So basically, that is how. So, but remember, you don't have a client problem, you don't have a money problem, you have a refusal to help people before they pay you problem, right? So that's my question. So what are you guys, and if you don't like that strategy, which that's totally fine, there's a zillion of them, but create something that provides value for people. Like, what about a local podcast like this for local business owners looking to generate leads and advertise effectively? What about, a local live event? When is your next local live event? When is your next local webinar on how to ramp up, businesses and solve business problems for local business owners, right? Just pick up the phone. People who are advertising, I think we all know that if you pick up, just call it the local newspaper, search some websites, go to the chamber. All I want you to do is search advertising and direct mail in your local area. If you have a look at it, on average, it sucks. Just phone these people as a community service. Just phone them and say, hey, I had a look at your ad. It absolutely sucks. I don't have to ask you if it is or is not working, because I know it's not working. How would you like me to help you completely transform the results of that ad totally free of charge? See what they say. Okay. And by the way, and as you're solving these problems, as you're helping people with their advertising, guess what would happen? It comes back to the last question, Road Dog, you just asked me. You would then, in 90 days, the amount of experience you will have solving business owners' problems will blow you away. You're going to get significantly better at coaching. This is how you get a lot of coaching clients, right? So that is what I would, that's what I would say. Just, you've got to start helping folks. But then I can almost hear the hamsters running in some of you listening in that, yeah, but Karl, what you're talking about is cold calling. It makes me throw up in my mouth, and I can't do that, right? And of course, you can do all this stuff through social media, etc. But I can tell you, all of that is designed to create phone calls and one-to-one appointments. You're never going to sell coaching through social media. But anywho, or at least not high-end coaching in any way, shape, it's just not going to happen unless you're Tony Robbins, Frank Kern, and a real heavyweight. But so basically, you just got to, you've got to provide value to these folks, okay? But again, the conversation in the head of someone listening is that, oh my God, Karl, I can't cold call for the next 6 months, 12 months, 10 years. I will never be able to be successful. Here's the good news. When you call people for 90 days and legitimately solve some problems, deliver some high-end value, first of all, a percentage of those people are going to hire you. Like Caroline literally got hired within 7 days of undertaking this process, right? Well, for you guys, as you start helping folks, people are going to start referring you. People are going to start recommending you as a speaker. People are going to start recommending you to, the gal who owns the local networking function. People are going to refer you there. Her husband is an accountant, and she says, you should really meet my accountant or my husband. He's an accountant. He's got about 400 business owners that work with him. He might be really interested in this process that you're doing, and gee, you really overstep the mark with me in a good way, really solve the problem. I'd like to introduce you to him. These are the types of things that are happening. And you want to get real strategic, you could then have a look at local. This is not that hard to do. Do some homework and work out, who the accountants are in town, and then who the husbands and the wives are of the accountants, and see if you can find an accountant whose wife is an entrepreneur, but in a different space, like a flower shop. Will do everything you can to get in there and help his wife. And then, believe me, there is going to be a path to all of a sudden getting a joint venture with their husband, right? You follow me? But all of this stuff takes time, effort, strategy. But that's what I'd say. But so the compounding effect, when you start undertaking the process, that 90-day process that I outlined, sent it out in an email, feel comfortable that you will, over time, all these contacts and the network that you don't have that you wish you had that makes it mandatory for you to cold call will be something that will transpire. And like I said, in 90 days, your entire life will be transformed. You'll be comfortably making your, should be at $10,000 a month, and you should be, off to the races with your coaching company. So that's what I'd say is that the problem is not the problem that you think it is. It's not about just a lead generation strategy. It's a mindset of being willing to help people. And if you're not willing to undertake that process, I would question you, because I think there's a really good chance that you're not really comfortable. You can legitimately help these people. So therefore, you've got to do it times 10. In fact, another call I had literally this week, I'm talking to a guy. How much is he charge? I mean, legit fees, I think he's charging $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. So he's getting in front of X amount of people. He's closed 3 or 4, but really at the end of the day, he sat with, say, 25 people and only closed a few. So I'm like, okay, let's not talk about lead generation. We have to talk about conversion, because you are getting in front of these folks. Like, the system is working to get you in front of them. Your conversion sucks. And he says, yeah. And I said, okay, well, walk me through the dynamic. You're sitting with the business owner. What's it look like? And then he walks me through, and then I say, okay, did you offer a money-back guarantee? And he goes, no. And I said, why not? And he goes, well, because I'm kind of nervous, because I don't know, and I'm like, hang on, whoa. You're nervous that they're not going to get value for the $36,000, so you're not willing to offer the money-back guarantee? Let's all go into common sense corner and think about what I just heard. That is frigging insanity. Right? That's the guy you do have to offer the money back guarantee. At the end of the day, if you don't deliver, you got to give the dough back, right? Or most certainly, work something out that is fair for all parties. But the reason you don't offer a money back guarantee is you're not comfortable that you're any good at this. Hello, my goodness. So that 90-day process is not only going to allow you to get a whole lot of clients, it's going to get you a lot of that experience that you might not have. Some of those runs on the boards, and just navigating the waters of a coach-client relationship, so that as you get more and more people paying you high-end fees, that you're able to kick some ass. So that, my friend, is how I would answer that question in terms of running out of money fast and not having enough coaching clients.
I just think it's you're building up a whole bunch of confidence, right? I remember you and I sitting down specifically. I remember the exact conversation. We're sitting at the local pub, and we were talking about their marketing and all that stuff. And this was early days, 3 years ago. And I just said, I wouldn't even know where to start. And you just said to me, give it a year. Let's talk about that. And now 3 years later, man, I could think of so many different strategies for that. Like anything, right?
Yeah.
It's being willing to help. But I think another big piece of it is we're all going into with a level of expectation of a return. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to drop.
Yep. And you had to put in the hard yards. I couldn't inject, I recommend the books and the videos, and you and I could talk about, look, here's what I would do in that situation. Here's what I do in that situation. But that's one thing. But then actually working with the clients that were paying you the $2,000 a month after month, that's really the way you learn, right? Would you agree with that? Our talks were good. I think it provided a little bit of confidence, but there was
100%.
nothing like working with the guys you were working with, correct?
Well, 100%, because that's where you build it out. That's where you build your confidence and your skill sets, and then you just everyone's expecting to be perfect. And another big piece that I always found interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is I used to go into every client meeting thinking I got to just wow them, I got to blow this out of the park every single time, when that's really not the case. Sometimes it's just a simple implementation session.
Look, yes, and again, you and I have chatted about this a lot, but just for everybody listening here, when you really drill down, right? Because the number one problem that you have as a coach is that your clients don't bloody do anything, right? And I don't need to speak to you one-to-one. This is 100% your biggest problem. It's the biggest problem for me. It's the biggest problem for Road Dogg. It's the biggest problem for Tony Robbins. It's the biggest problem for Frank Kern and everybody else, right? Well, then the question is, okay, well, why aren't they doing anything? Okay, and it's going to come back to fear, and it really comes back to fear of loss of love, okay, and fear of not being enough. Like, can they actually do it? Because it's easier to not do it. In fact, Road Dogg, again, it comes back to the first question you asked me, right? Like, are you concerned that you might be wrong once in a while? And it's just, you can't be, because that would just, it would totally come from a place of I'm not enough and that I'm going to lose love. Like, if I give somebody bad advice, they're going to take love away from me, right? So when you drill down, your coaching client has those two greatest fears with like almost 100% predictability. So when they're not doing something, or they're, they have that number one challenge, when you really drill down, it'll come to that. And ultimately what they're looking for is happiness. Okay. And progress equals happiness. Those three words treated me very, very well in my career. Progress equals happiness. So when I'm working with a customer, say a coaching client, if I get them, so when they get the new website up, they feel progress. Okay. When they go to the bookstore and they buy the book, they feel some progress. When they pick up the phone and make a phone call and get a positive result, whether it's a sale or not, this is progress. When they take it one step further and they get the coaching client, this is progress. So, Road Dogg, back to your point, you want small, sturdy, incremental, and consistent wins as you're moving along. The home run, and the home run's great, and they're out there, but long before I'm looking for a home run, just small, sturdy, positive steps is going to be a great coach-client relationship with 100% certainty. And by the way, one that's going to get them to a lot of success. And again, they start feeling, instead of feeling the loss of love and the loss of being good enough, it's the exact opposite starts to happen. So now you get a little snowball that's rolling down the hill, and it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And by the bottom of the hill, it's huge and it cannot be stopped, right? That's what we're looking for. That's your job as a coach, quite frankly, is to make that snowball out of your client.
So this ties perfect actually to my next question actually. So goal setting, okay? Somebody wrote in here and said they struggle with setting effective goals. So obviously it's about that progress, but like, can give us an example of a goal that you set and it had big payoffs, and walk us through that.
You like to get me on the spot, don't you? I think you said earlier you like the hard questions. Okay, what the heck? When I think everybody falls into this one, right? Where we're initially setting goals, and the goals are us. Okay, so like there was a time in my coaching company where I wanted them like $10,000 a month of consistent revenue from my clients is where I wanted to get to. Because I'm human, at no time did I ever stop at 10 grand, pat myself on the back, and realize I achieved a goal. And then I went to 25 grand. I got the 25 grand. Once again, didn't pat myself on the back, didn't acknowledge it, didn't have a beer, didn't high five, my wife or fiance or girlfriend at the time, whatever it was. And then I went to 100 grand. And then I went beyond. So basically, initially, because I'm human, right? I set some goals. They were there were lots of other ones, but they were financial ones. I wanted to hit 10. I wanted to hit 25 grand. I wanted to hit 50 grand, 100 grand and upwards, right? So really, in fact, my dad often talks about this with me, but he says, Karl, honestly, I still remember when everything shifted for you, right? And he doesn't quite, we've talked about it in depth, but I can tell you that the big shift for me was when my goals and, frankly, my mission and purpose became 100% driven from my clients' results instead of mine, right? Because 50 grand a month was me, right? Well, I changed it. One of the things that I had is I would take on a client and I wanted to make $100,000 in 100 days. And by the way, I failed a lot more times than I succeeded, but it didn't stop me from making it the goal. It didn't stop me from making it public, as in telling the coaching client that this is my goal. And again, often we came up short, but I would tell them that too. I said, look, there are no guarantees here, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to do what you're going to pay me for. I'm not going to do, what this little, piece of paper outlines in the weekly calls. I'm going to do what it takes. Like, I was known, I would literally, if, you were a client and you had a car, like say you were a realtor driving around, I would sit with you and watch everything unfold for a few days because I wanted to really get inside your head and experience. And believe me, from one realtor to the next, it can be a very different car ride and experience. So $100,000, and then like today, so we work with coaches, obviously. The goal, everything that we do internally, we have what we call a North Star. The North Star is we are 100% driven to make our clients $100,000 a month, right? So you're a business coach, you work with us, we want you to make $100,000. And many don't, and many do that plus. But at the end of the day, everything. So internally, if you come to me and say, hey, Karl, I want to launch this program, the question that I have for you is, in fact, I don't have it for you, I have it for me, but I say, does this help a coach make $100,000 a year, more consistently, or does it make it easier for them? If the answer is yes, let's table it and discuss it. If the answer is no, quite frankly, it's just not something that we're looking at. And by the way, so if you want an example of this, Zuckerberg, back in the day, he had his North Star. I think he referred to it as one question, whatever it was. But he said, does it help us grow? So if you went to Zuckerberg and you asked him that question, he would just say, does this help us grow? And if it did, he would table it. That doesn't mean he accepts it. Doesn't mean you launch it. Doesn't mean it's all of a sudden sold. It is, something he will look at. But if it didn't help them grow, he's not interested. Gary Vaynerchuk has the same, which I believe he still operates right today, but does it get him attention? If it gets him attention, like you want to interview him on a podcast, then he will look at it. If it doesn't get him attention, he doesn't look at it. So for us, our North Star is helping our business coaches make $100,000. So for you guys, again, so that's, so those are some of my goals. I'd be curious, what is your goal? And I think a good idea is, especially if you're not at, say, $10,000 a month yet, this would be if your goal is $10,000 a month, change your password on your phone immediately to 10,000. It's really important because you open that thing up. If you don't have a password, put a password for this reason, because you're going to open it about 17 times a day. Don't do facial recognition. Pump in 10,000, like 17, 20, 25 times a day, and believe me, this is going to get you somewhere. But as I just said, this is not the ultimate goal for you. That is not the North Star in any way, shape, or form. Ultimately, you want to have something along the lines of, and again, putting mine was $100,000 in my client's bank account in 100 days. And believe me, showing up, so 100 days, like showing up every single week for your weekly coaching call is probably not going to get those results. But if you want a 10-year client, it will be established in the first 90 days. That's when you really, this is when everybody knows who's in control and who cares, as much as they say they do, yada, which clients are actually going to do the work, right? Which ones are trained. Your job as a coach is to train your clients, much like a hypnotist, get you to walk up on stage and dance like Pee Wee Herman. They don't ask you to dance like Pee Wee Herman. They tell you to dance like Pee Wee Herman, right? So everything in hypnosis is, like there is no questions. These things are just directives as to what you do, and people do listen. So you want to establish that. I just say, and my dad, again, as I mentioned, he just says, I remember when everything shifted for you, right? And I can just tell you that's when my goals shifted to be 100% focused on the client's results, and then, all the good graces flow from there. But that's what I would say is that, so the number one goal that served me very, very well is saying, okay, the number one purpose here is to make sure that our coaches, our business coaches that work with us make $100,000. And by the way, break that down, because that sounds good, but I can tell you that, like, if you charge $1,000 a month, you need 9 clients. If you charge $1,500 a month, you need 5.6 clients. If you charge $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year, you need 4.2 clients over a 12-month period in order to make $100,000 a year, right? So once again, that's super. You guys probably heard me say that I'll meet somebody and they tell me they want to make $1 million. That's just one of those subjective numbers that people just sort of throw out there. Very, very common, right? Well, then I say, what's that per month? And very seldom can anybody tell me what $1 million is per month, right? And again, it's $83,333.33 a month, right? It's critical. If you can't spit that out, there is no chance. I'm sure there's once in a while, there's anomalies, but we don't deal with anomalies, right? It's probably not going to happen. So that's what I'd say there, boss.
Okay, so you mentioned Gary Vee, which, by the way, I sent you one hilarious knockoff Gary Vee video last week.
Yeah, that was
which
awesome.
I watched. I couldn't turn it off. I watched it like 4 times. It was one of the funniest things I've seen. But speaking of Gary Vee, speaking of online stuff, because obviously, that's, I play in the digital world as well. And it is interesting. It's hilarious to me how quick it's another silver bullet, in my opinion, that people believe it's a silver bullet. But here's a question that I got. How do you use social media to get coaching clients?
Well, we both know this is so if you want to sell a program, if I needed $1,000 and I had 3 hours to get it, I would go straight online and I would promote magic, pull it, get clients, make money instantly through my 3-step social media program. What do I mean by that? This is the thing that everybody's thinking about right now. It's top of mind. Everybody's trying to work it out. It frustrates the hell out of me because let me tell you, social media is a long-term play. I said it a little bit earlier here. You are not going to get high-end coaching clients. Let's call high-end $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year and above. You're not going to get those guys online. You will not get them if you don't speak to them or sit with them face to face. Not going to happen unless, of course. But so then I'll say that to somebody and they go, "But Tony Robbins did. Jeff Walker, I bought Product Launch Formula. I bought from Frank Kern." Yeah, but what you don't realize, these guys have been at it for 20 years, right? These people that do buy the programs, they're either, you know what I mean? They just got these really, really high profiles. You don't use the anomalies, right? You use the percentages. And I'm not in any way suggesting that you can't be the next Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, Tony Robbins, Dan Kennedy. Go for it. But it is not, if you're asking me this question, there is no chance that you're that person, just not happening yet. But you can get there, right? So very important, guys, please, I don't want to talk to your conscious mind. I want to talk to your subconscious mind. Social media is a long-term play. Okay, so please treat it as such. And what does that mean? It means that you need to go out and deliver value. So I'll give you an example of how not to use the internet to get coaching clients. This literally happened. This is within the last 14 days for me. So I've got an old friend from school, right? Her name is Lynn. I'm not going to say her last name, but her name is Lynn, sweetheart. We used to get along really well, drank a bunch of beers and went to a bunch of parties when we were young. Great gal, dated my buddy, blah, 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 right? So we are friends on Facebook, and we have been friends on Facebook for let's call it 5 years. Like you guys, I have posted pictures of my family and my kids and my, playing hot, whatever the heck it is. It doesn't matter, right? Well, I know for a fact that Lynn, maybe she's liked something along the lines. And as I say that, again, if anybody who knows me knows I'm not exactly the guy that's going to sit there and run through, so who's liking my photos and who's not. But you'd be kidding yourself to say that just doesn't happen naturally, right? So what I'm getting at is that Lynn hasn't liked a bunch of my stuff. It's not like we're engaging. She's never left a comment. We've never kind of bantered back and forth. We're just two people that reconnected on social media, haven't done as much as a direct message or private message to one another. She sends me a message the other day, right? And she goes, Karl, I've been reading some of your posts, right? But I'm like, not like, and again, guys, understand, I'm just, as I've been very cautious to say this because it's not like you're sitting there. I'm not doing it. You're not doing it. There's just a reality frigging 101 when the next phase of this relationship takes hold. I'm going to explain, right? So she says that she's been watching XYZ. I noticed you got this big company, blah, 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 blah. I've got this new solution that I'm a part of, and I'm going to guess, correctly that it's an MLM, and magically she wants me to buy whatever or to put this all out to my clients. You know what I mean? And I'm like, guys, think about the lunacy of that. And then think about how it happens from a business standpoint what you've got to do is start the conversation. For Lynn to have been successful with that, and she could have been, frankly, because this is someone who I have a lot of time for. She's a beautiful gal from back in the day. We were close back in the day. Hey, Karl, how's it going? Been a long time. Hey, Lynn, oh my gosh, great to hear from you. What's happening? I've noticed, seen your kids online, blah, 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 blah. Congratulations. Your husband looks like a great dude, right? I know, you too. Your wife's gorgeous, and the kids, my gosh, they're growing up so fast. Doesn't time fly? Question mark, question mark. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So I've seen some of your posts, your business. Congratulations on all the success you've had. Geez, I'm so proud of you, and a lot of the other gals are proud of you. It's really cool to watch. Oh, wow, Lynn, thanks so much. Geez, and think of what's happening. This is reciprocal. I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool. Like somebody who I haven't spoken to or seen in 25 years is watching my XYZ and kind of proud of me. And maybe they're talking about, you know what I mean? They're positively talking about me. Everybody likes to hate on everyone, right? Nowadays, it feels like, wow, they're thinking positively, like I'm picturing them drinking wine, talking like as though I'm the center of the conversation. And of course, I'm using this as, metaphorically, right? But and then, hey, by the way, and then maybe tomorrow, maybe in 3 days, right? Hey, Karl, it was so nice chatting the other day. Hey, by the way, do you get the idea? You need to start the conversation. And they say, in fact, literally this weekend, same thing. I've got this guy, he's a copywriter. He says at the beginning of the longest Facebook direct message of all time, hey, Karl, I'm following your profile. I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm following your profile. And then any break, no mention of anything that could be on my profile, which I got lots of stuff on my profile. So I'm sure you get to mention the magazine, mention the podcast, mention the business coaches, mention something to do with me playing hockey. I don't know. You could mention something, for goodness sakes, right? And then this really long-winded blah, 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 blah sales pitch. I'm just like, dude, see ya, unfriend, unfollow, goodbye, right? Like, stinking kidding me. So that is how not to do it, okay? So here is how to do it. And by the way, warning, this is going to take some bloody work and some, like a strategic approach. And if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but I need a coaching client this week, again, that's an absolute 100% loser approach to it, and you're just going to lose, right? You have to play the long game here. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to the Chamber of Commerce, and you're going to write down every single business listed on the Chamber of Commerce, or you're going to go back and forth, however you're going to do it, list of the chamber businesses. You're going to then work out what are the names of the people that own the chiropractic office, the dentist, and the niches that you personally are good at and you feel comfortable that this would be a great coaching client for you. Get the names of the people that own these businesses. Now search them on Facebook, search them on Instagram, search them on LinkedIn, friend them. And track it. Some are going to accept your friend requests, some aren't. That's totally fine. The ones that do, take note of it. Now go to their profiles and like some of their photos. Go to their photos and comment on something and don't be a cheese ball, right? Because again, this all comes back to, the systematic and strategic approach to it. So like them, engage them. If they own a restaurant, legitimately go to the restaurant, ask the chefs what's the best, meal to order it, and go to the guy's profile and say, man, I went to your restaurant. The chef recommended the spaghetti bolognese, the lamb chops, whatever. Oh my gosh, was it to die for? Everybody should frequent your restaurant. I'll see you in a couple weeks. I don't know. What do you think? Like all of a sudden the guy's going to be like, wow, cool. And by the way, do it on his LinkedIn profile and do it on his Instagram profile. Do you think that might start a little bit of engagement? And the answer is absolutely. And again, don't be a cheese ball. If you go and the food sucks and the waitresses are terrible and the waiter's terrible and the barman's a jerk, okay, then this is not something you want to be writing, right? Just leave it. Maybe try them again. Maybe send them a private message to say, hey, dude, just an FYI, the location of your restaurant is perfect, and I'm a real Mexican food fan, but I went to your restaurant, man, and I wasn't overly impressed. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm not going to say what night it was because I don't want anybody getting into trouble, but you might want to have a look at XYZ. By the way, feel free to ignore this message. Just, from a business owner to a business owner, I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. Again, that's going to get the engaged. So it's got to be a long-term play, and you like their stuff, engage with their stuff, most certainly provide, let's say joint ventures is something that you're really good at, and that, you can help the restaurant owner and the personal trainer, et cetera, in town. Okay, well, go to one of their business posts where a question is asked, or in some way, shape, or form, a definition or an explanation or some examples around joint venture would make sense, and say, hey, really cool idea. Also, where I found I've had a lot of success with my own business is doing joint ventures, and this is how I'd explain it. Hope that helps. Have a great day. If you got any questions, feel free to message me back, right? And then, by the way, what you do is you copy paste that, that write-up on joint ventures and have it in a Word document. And by the way, you should have about 30 different bits of really what's a loss leader? What's a joint venture, right? How to drive traffic on the internet, the difference between Facebook and Instagram, the best time to post on Facebook for engagement for business owners, right? That sort of stuff. Okay, well, have all that in a Word document, have it ready to go, copy it, paste it. I wouldn't recommend you just copy and paste it, because then it's probably going to be too templated. Go into it. The question was X. Type a little bit, just up at the top, in and around. Well, I look at things a little bit differently than that. Here's what I've found. Loss leaders are powerful, but, and then copy paste. And then again, along the bottom, I hope that helps. If you got any questions, feel free to, comment, reply here or DM me. So that's how you do it. But this is going to take time. This is going to take effort. Nothing here within 90 days. Don't expect a big rush of clients and everybody whipping out their credit card going, gee, where's the payment button? That's not the way it's going to work. Social media is a long-term play. So you've got to see it in that way. And do understand. So then the strategy, let's rise up. If I go to your profile, my goal isn't engagement. My goal is clients at, say, $2,000 a month. Okay. Well, a phone call or a one-to-one meeting is absolutely mandatory. So make sure that you're moving everything in that direction. And remember, people will always listen to ideas. Okay, this is something that I learned in advertising many moons ago. I would never ever sell you advertising. I would always have a couple of ideas for you. And it's weird, feel free to test this, but when you email somebody or you tell somebody you've got a couple of ideas for them, I don't know, they want to hear them. I'll just tell you that. So in that engagement on Facebook, don't give them the solution point blank. Say, you want to do it over the phone because this is where you'll sell the coaching. So the engagement, the direct message drives to a 15-minute phone call, not a 30-minute phone call, not a 1-hour phone call. You want a quick 15-minute phone call because people want to deal with people that are busy. So if you've got 1 hour spare on Tuesday, from a subconscious point of view, this lessens your status, this lessens your preeminence, and you have a lesser chance of getting them. If you're super busy and you can only fit in 15, 20 minutes, 30 max, this raises your preeminence. Holy smoke, she must be a real busy gal. He must be a real rock star at this marketing stuff. I'm really going to take his time, respect his time, and the fact that he is going to give it to me. I am going to come prepared. I am going to be 2 minutes early, and I'm going to be ready to rock and roll with a list of questions. Right? That's the goal that you're looking for. So the engagement from the post and the direct message is driving them to a phone call, and then the phone call is driving them to a consultation, and then the consultation is driving them to a one-to-one coaching client. Okay, so make sure that you've got in your head really systemized step 1, step 2, step 3, so that you're moving them in the right direction. Like the goal of the engagement is not to then give them all the answers in the comment under the Facebook post after your templated joint venture spiel. Right? You follow me? So that look, there's a lot more to it than that. I'll also tell you this. Here's another mistake that is absolutely huge. Coaches, you guys go and you spend so much time in Facebook groups with other coaches. Okay, it's crazy. You need to go and join Facebook groups where your clients are, not your peers. You probably should be in 1 or 2 with fellow coaches. That's a good idea. but being in multiple and spending, like, for every, let's say, 10 minutes you spend in a Facebook group with coaches, you should be spending at least 30 minutes in a Facebook group with your prospective clients doing the stuff that I just outlined, giving an insane amount of value. Okay, so I've done that just recently with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and I guess Russell Brunson is now teamed up with them. So I bought that program. I was interested in what it looked like, yada, yada, yada. I'm in there. Well, a lot of guys, they've made some posts, and I just answer with a really good, credible answer, not just the hoopla. I'm also in a fortunate position where I legitimately understand this stuff at a pretty high level. So I'd like to think, and I could well and truly be wrong, and happy to be, but I think that my answers provide a whole lot of value, and it's not something I need templated. Like, I'm kind of just pumping this stuff out custom, but I can do it quickly nowadays. So you could, like, I have got a ton of people private messaging me, saying, hey man, I really like the answer to that. Could you give me, like, what would you say to, what would you X, Y, Z? And I'll tell you, a lot of people in that group, they have absolutely no chance of success. It's just, and I've nothing to do with them. It's their ideas, right? Like, their ideas are stinking hopeless. And like, people, there's certain things that people buy, okay, and they're wants, not needs. And the people just don't understand that really, foundational market piece. You do not, like, everybody needs goal setting and time management. But you're not going to see my ad saying, hey, man, hey, coaches, I'm going to help you with goal setting and time management, where I would have the worst performing ads in the history of Facebook of all time. Okay. I know that the conversation in the head of business coaches is that they need leads. They equate lead generation with money. So I say, hey, if you're looking to get coaching clients and need to generate some leads online, click this link, poof, they end up here. And then we deliver what they actually need. Again, the real problem, I talked about it a little bit earlier, is that most coaches aren't very good at what the hell they're doing. So therefore, stuff like that money back guarantee that I mentioned, like, they're not willing to just pick up the phone and offer to solve people's problems because they're scared poopless. Can I actually do it? Well, that's the reason why you have to do it, so that in the future you've got that certainty that you'll be able to. And this is what makes picking up the phone and providing this value so much easier. So Road Dogg, a little bit long-winded, man, but social media, it's a very powerful tool. Everybody should be using it. But it's something that needs to be done with a bigger picture in mind.
You talk about the group. So I actually did a post, like, no one follow me on Instagram because I swear too much. But what's interesting is there was a post on in a certain coaches group of, he offers free sessions. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about, Karl. So somebody posted in there and said, hey, what do you guys think of my offer? And the guy's offer was something along the lines of, I help business owners get back their freedom by helping them resolve their stress. And I'm like, what would really resolve somebody's stress? Walking in and helping them find 10 grand in under an hour. I think that would alleviate a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Like, hopeless. But it's
what you're
crazy.
Describing, brother. Just exactly. It's just like, that's what is all littered in that group that I just mentioned. Like, it's just absolute. And they don't understand it. They're so far off that it's not even, it's scary. So it's a tough one, man. They need a
so
hope, man.
So going back to Gary Vee for a sec, because he ties into this on an Instagram strategy. I was trying to find it. If I find it, I'll post it in the into the group. But he talked about, it's like, deliver $1 or $2 worth of value, 3 cents at a time. Go search hashtags, right? Like, relevant hashtags to either a niche that you're looking to target or whatever, and from there, that's where you're going to find, and you can add comments and value inside of that. Like, that to me is huge. Like, hashtags are there to make our lives a little bit easier to really zone in on those people. So
yeah, I love that. What Gary Vee calls that, it's the $1.80 strategy, and he says put in your 2 cents. So what you do is you find 90 posts that are relevant, okay, and then you put in your 2 cents, as I just described a minute ago. So an example, if you were a chiropractor, okay, you help people with sore backs. So you basically just, on Twitter, this is pretty easy to do, but you basically just go through anybody that mentions, sore back pain, and some other keywords, you plug it in, everybody will, and then do it just locally, right? Well, all these people pop up, and then the chiropractor comes, gives his 2 cents, and if he does that 90 times, again, $1.80, he does that 90 times a day, he's going to have some new clients, because no other chiropractor is spending time on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc., and just, unsolicited, just not sell, hey, come see me, because that won't work, right? That's what we talked about earlier. Just providing, hey, man, here's a list of stretches that I recommend for your sciatic nerve that you mentioned. Just saw your post. Have a great day, man. If I can help further, let me know. Right?
I just think it's funny that you're still on Twitter.
Buddy, I live on Twitter.
Everybody has Instagram, dude. Everyone's on Insta. Seriously. All right. So I really want to get to this one question because this came to me. I think I texted this to you on Friday. I was literally out for a run and it popped into my head and I'm like, this is too good. And so this will be kind of just to wrap up on this one. So this not be too long-winded if at all possible. We always talk about making things your own, right? Like you can have scripts, you talked about posting things, don't make it sound too, scripted or anything like that. But when we look at that stuff, right? Like what's the difference between, because we always say, if you follow the process, you're going to get results. But then comes the other argument of, yeah, but you got to make it your own. So where's that fine line of taking a process like that, works, and then at what point do you customize it too much that now it's just not that process anymore? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yep, totally. Okay, number one, you got to vet. There's a lot of folks out there, and it doesn't seem to have that much of a big deal in terms of how much they charge you, right? So one guy charges you $50,000 up front. The other guy charges you $500 a month for the program. Before you go, like the scripts that they're giving you and the process, you've got to be people. I just find people are fooled so easily, right? Like again, the social media thing. Oh, I've got a bulletproof process and in 90 days you're going to get X, Y, Z. So make sure that you vet the fact that this is actually going to work. Once you've established this process works and others have had success, okay.
Wow.
They've had
Good
success.
weekend.
Yeah, and then, so what you do is memorize it at that stage, okay? So, and I would recommend, because if somebody, like as an example in my world, you're a business coach that works with us, we sit down with any business owner and find them $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. Or in fact, we actually say $10,000 up front. Our process will easily find $100,000. What happens then is that you underpromise, you over-deliver in the first meeting. The client at a subconscious level thinking, holy smokes, if she did that, if she, she said 10 grand and she's produced over 100 grand, she's going to over deliver. So why wouldn't I pay $1,500 a month for her to coach me? I'd be crazy not to have a go at this, because if I just get a couple of clients, this is going to do really well, right? So therefore, I'd encourage you to memorize our script verbatim, or the script verbatim that you're following, and then make it your own. I think that when people take the script, they go, gee, I like that, and then they adjust it to suit their style, etc., before memorizing it and legitimately understanding, some of the new, like as an example, what I just gave you is a nuance that you're going to say 10 grand, and then you're actually going to find them 100 grand. It's very important that you don't find them 500 grand or $1 million. Why would that be? Because if the numbers inflate too much, now there's an element of, I don't believe you, this is too good to be true, right? So again, there's a big time nuance there. So when you make it your own too quick, what I find that a lot of the time you go away from the really important subliminal kind of process that's happening there. So that's what I would encourage. So vet the process big time. Once you've established this is worth doing, do it verbatim as close as you can. You know what I mean? Again, when I say verbatim, but your own style a little bit, but at the end of the day, following it pretty much to a T. And once you've got that and you've delivered a few times and you feel comfortable that you could tell me what the nuances are of this process, then I think it's time for you to make it your own. And that's when I think you'll really have the most success, because then it's going to be yours. It's not like, in this instance, you're there delivering Karl's script. You're delivering your own, right? So your own process and making it yours. So that's what I feel like people just do that way too quickly. Instinctively, they just go straight to, oh, okay, that works good for him, so I'll do it in this way. And they don't realize the real loss. The reason why it then doesn't work in 90 days is that they lost those nuances, and frankly, because they didn't really, they say they followed the process, but they didn't, so they missed those really important X factors that were in there.
Gotcha. That's good. That's good, because that was big on my mind, because again, it's a fine line between just reading a script, because again, you always say you've got to have, mojo and charisma, and if you're just reading something, you're not going to have that, right? It's got to be your language, at least your tonality, if you will, to kind of, I don't know, to sell it, for a lack of a better way of saying it, right? To get the nuances, get those things across.
Yep. Okay, so as an example, so my script, I'll find you $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, right? So it's 100 or 10 or 50 or 100K. Let's just say it's 100K. That is a finite number. And then there's a finite time, 45 days, right? So you could adjust that and say, I'm going to get you 3,000 leads in 90 days. So now you know what I mean? So you've changed it. You've made it more of a lead generation play than you have a financial play, which is totally fine. But it's, you know what I mean? But by following the fact that we've got those two finite numbers in there, and you could go, I'm going to get you 3,000 leads in 90 days without building a new website. You see, without you spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, if you say the elevator pitch and you leave out without spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, it doesn't work anywhere nearly as well. Once again, that is a nuance. It's like do you know what I mean? That's part of the process. They could easily get missed if you weren't taught it properly.
That's very good. That's very good. Kind of makes me now rethink of even everything, right? Like, instead of just reading the script, I need to be reading it more from what are the nuances inside of this? Like, what are all of the little points that I need to be sure to come across? So. Yep.
And who are you talking to? Okay. So if I go to the trade show on the weekend and there's chiropractors there, I'm going to find any chiropractor $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising for their chiropractic office.
Right.
Right. So again, yes, absolutely. But then also, who is my audience, which is absolutely critical. You take it to, because you now took it to you took the exact elevator pitch and you took it to another level big time when you're talking to a chiropractor, and you could just as easily adjust that for a dentist or a financial planner or what have you.
Right. Gotcha. All right, man. I think I could keep going, but everybody's not wanting to listen to us yap all day. They got their 3 calls to make today, man.
That's it, man. I most certainly hope so. But I think that's it. What do you think, man? We'll leave the other questions for next week. Is that the plan?
Yeah, well, again, more will come in. Obviously, they always do, which is awesome. Keep those questions coming. But yeah, let's leave it there. That was amazing as always. Thank you, sir. That provided a lot of clarity. Every time my whiteboard has got more ideas written on it. Even though I know the questions, I always wonder, how is he going to answer that? And you always find ways to continue to surprise me. So that's awesome. So thanks for that, buddy.
No worries, man. Appreciate it, dude. And we shall talk to you next week. And of course, we appreciate everybody listening in. And we will see you next week on Business Coaching Secrets.
Have a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.